Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Just before this video begins, I want to announce a giveaway that I will be doing on the channel where the first 1000 subscribers will be entered into a giveaway to win a £10 gift card for Xbox, PS4 or Steam, depending on your preferred platform. So just simply subscribe to have a good chance at winning this prize. Once the channel hits the sub goal, the winner will be announced via your YouTube community post. Best of luck. Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the first, if not the first indie horror game that I have ever played. I never actually ended up playing the first game until later because I was just way too terrified of it. Instead I played the second game first. I actually do prefer the second game over the first. Now this could just be a simple case of nostalgia, but I do think that the gameplay mechanics are better in the second one. I've played through every single one of the FNAF games when they have released apart from like the first and second one, and I've also played my handful amount of FNAF fan games. By this, what I'm trying to say is that FNAF has been an integral part of my childhood and I've been a diehard fan since day one. I mean, this was really the first ever game that introduced me to the whole indie scene and not just getting games from massive developers. One day, all of a sudden, ScottGames' little indie game absolutely blew up and literally everyone on this platform was making heaps of content. ScottGames is the foundation of FNAF and always will be. Literally every single FNAF game has been made by ScottGames. Apart from certain models and voice acting, this man did everything himself. So when this certain new FNAF game called Security Breach was announced and teased a few years back, I was very excited. As it turns out, this game was going to be the biggest FNAF game ever, as not only ScottGames was working on it but an entire studio. The main reason why me and so many others in the FNAF community were really excited and hyped for this game was because just think about what ScottGames has done by himself and now think about what an entire studio plus ScottGames could do. The journey leading up to the release of Security Breach as well as the game itself is a roller coaster of up and downs. When Security Breach did finally release on the 16th of December 2021, it released in a very notoriously poor state. The release definitely wasn't bad as some other games like Cyberpunk, but it was pretty goddamn bad nevertheless. I mean seriously, by god, the optimization for this game is absolutely shocking even after all these years, but this is something that I will have a whole section on, so prepare. What is Security Breach truly like in 2023? Is it still as bittersweet as I remember? Let's find out. I mentioned in my previous video that when it comes down to it, I'm quite a positive guy, so I'm going to go ahead and start with what I did like about the game. Here are just some of the things that Steelwool Studios as well as ScottGames have got right. I want to start off by saying that in my opinion, the map for Security Breach, everything down to its art direction, its style and its size is all done very well. As you play the game for yourself, it starts to become very apparent that this game definitely did have a dedicated art team making sure that everything fit together nicely and all the environments were done well. One thing I did enjoy about the Pizzaplex is that looking around it, going down all the way to the basement, all the way to the upper floors, nothing is out of place. You can tell that compared to some other games that have been released recently like Ban for example, that a lot of thought was actually put into the game in terms of how it flows together. Some of the assets in Security Breach were made by Steelwool Studios themselves from scratch, some of them were bought and some of them were obtained in some other way. And even though the whole game consists of all of these different types of assets put together, it all just goes along very well. One thing that I definitely respect this game for doing is managing to keep a consistent art style throughout the whole of the playthrough. Even though the whole of Security Breach to play through is not long at all, the map for it is absolutely gigantic. But when I talk about this game being gigantic, I don't necessarily mean about how many square meters you as a player can actually walk around, which is a decent amount by the way. I'm talking about the actual scale of halls, rooms and objects. The majority of the whole Pizzaplex, specifically more of the upper levels, have absolutely huge halls and a lot of open spaces. And this whole idea of the game having a lot of massive open spaces does link back to my previous point that the game managed to keep consistent throughout. After you finish the whole daycare section of the game, you enter into an elevator, and as you go up, you're waiting for something. When I finally stopped hearing that theme tune in an elevator and the doors opened up, I was presented with a gigantic open space with the stage that we saw in the intro, as well as a lot of extra shops and attractions around. At this moment in time, when I exited out that elevator, I was just absolutely shocked at the whole scale of it. One thing which you just gotta give this game some merit and praise for is how small it makes you feel compared to your surroundings. And when I'm talking about your surroundings, I'm not only talking about the rooms and objects and whatever, I am also talking about the whole glamorous cast of animatronics. Sure, some of the characters such as the Music Man were made huge on purpose, but even just the regular cast of characters like Freddy, Roxanne and Monty are huge compared to the character which you are playing as. Even though their voice can get annoying from time to time, I do like the creative decision that you actually play as a kid in Security Breach. Of course, as you're playing as Gregory, you are like 4 foot tall, so everything is big compared to you. The little nuggets of good horror that this game does have, this whole idea of playing as a kid definitely builds on it as it increases your vulnerability. You're in this huge open world that is completely unknown to you, and you are not quite sure of the horrors that it presents, but you are very small to face them. Unfortunately, the horror aspect of this game was disappointing to say the least. However, there still is some glimpse of horror left. 2 specific parts of the game where I can confidently say that the horror aspect was at its best is the daycare section as well as the endoskeleton. To be honest, I really enjoyed the whole daycare section of the game, especially when I played this game for the first time. In this part of the game, you are introduced to the characters of Sundrop and Moondrop, both of which is the same person. Sundrop is a nice little lad who just wants to go around helping you and clean up messes. However, as Sundrop holds Gregory, he urges him never to turn off the lights. And trust me, that is because of good reason, as when you actually go ahead and take that security badge, the whole place shuts down. And after this is exactly the moment where we get a nice little cutscene of Sundrop turning into Moondrop. Right before the lights end up turning off in the daycare, we are introduced to the flashlight mechanic. Even though sometimes my flashlight did run out and I was in absolute pitch darkness because my darkness settings were like terrible for some reason, I do rate the fact that Scott is paying a homage to the original games where your flashlight did in fact have a battery. All except from Sister Location, FNAF 4, FNAF 6, it doesn't matter. I think that in Sister Location, your torch not having an infinite battery is a good idea. It kinda encourages you to use it more sparingly, meaning some places you will have to go through in darkness, making it more creepy obviously, as well as kind of forcing you to explore the surrounding areas to try and find yourself a recharge station. But anyway, I do also like the gameplay that comes with the daycare section, especially the part where the lights turn off. You have to rummage around the whole daycare, going inside the climbing obstacles and whatnot, trying to find these generators so you can turn on the power again. Moondrop in this section is pretty creepy as he's kind of floating around and constantly chatting crap, and also when he's doing that little cartwheel dance thing to try and get you is pretty terrifying. But honestly, you really don't have much to fret when he's on the solid ground in an open area, as he can very easily be distracted. The only time he kind of felt like a general threat and it was difficult to deal with him when he actually came into the climbing apparatus with you, in which case it is good practice to try and find the nearest exit, lure him outside and distract him again. The whole generator part of this area is pretty tricky when you're playing it for the first time, however when you actually know where they are you can speedrun this very quickly. As for the whole Weeping Angel endoskeleton part, that is pretty creepy as well. With these endoskeletons, their eyes glow in the dark, which is pretty terrifying, but worst of all, you can actually hear their footsteps when they are coming towards you. Now when you're getting introduced to these guys for the first time, they really aren't that bad as there is only just 1 or 2 of them. However, very soon afterwards they start getting into numbers and become pretty uncontrollable. So not is this only one of the most terrifying parts of the game, but also one of the hardest parts of the game. And this is exactly why this section is so good. It contains a very nice balance between difficulty and also scariness. You have to constantly be on the move even though you know for sure and well you can actually hear a whole group of these bad boys moving up behind you trying to get your ass. The diverse gameplay mechanics are also pretty good. Security Breach introduces new gameplay mechanics, deviating from the traditional point and click formula of previous FNAF games. This time around you can actually freely explore the whole mega pizzaplex, interact with various objects and use stealth mechanics to avoid animatronics. There is also some level of challenging gameplay. This game offers a satisfying level of difficulty, providing a challenge for both new and experienced players. The animatronics AI has been improved, making them more unpredictable and formidable enemies. Although these enemies sometimes aren't the greatest, and I will talk about this later. Another thing good is the replayability, as Security Breach has multiple endings as well as secrets. The game offers replayability, encouraging you to revisit the game and uncover all of its mysteries. Additionally, the game includes optional challenges and collectibles that add further depth to the gameplay. Another thing that I definitely do have to mention is the whole variety of animatronic characters. The game introduces us to a diverse cast of animatronic characters, each with its own unique design and behavior. This does help to add some depth and variety to the gameplay, as you must learn the different strategies to survive encounters with each character. As we all know, with a new FNAF game we have more FNAF lore. This game does have sort of an engaging storyline. Security Breach expands the FNAF lore and story, delving deeper into the mystery and dark secrets behind Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The game presents a compelling narrative that unfolds as you progress, keeping you invested into the story, that links with your ending when you finish the game. Some of the soundtracks I do rate as well, but I really can't praise the audio in this game as it's just not very good. But anyway, this is just about most positive things that I can muster up about Security Breach. You know, this video has been going on for more than 10 minutes and maybe you are tired of my voice, but don't worry because I have a brilliant fix to this problem. 1 second guys, I'm going to go ahead and ask my good friend Donny Productions if he wants a part on this video, and if by God he says no, I'm gonna offer him something he just can't refuse: a lifetime supply of tea bags. He is a Brexit geezer after all.
Security breach, security breach, security breach. Where do I even start with this game? I remember the day this game came out, and I was so hyped for it. I loaded up Steam and immediately gave Steelwool all my bank account details and began installing it. When it finally was installed, I was so excited when I first loaded up the game and experienced the intro cutscene. I was so ready to experience the new generation of Five Nights at Freddy's, the franchise that just started as one man making a sit and survive horror game, and it's now to the point where there's a full-on studio behind the development of Five Nights at Freddy's games, and it is completely free roam with so much potential, and I was just so happy it was finally here. But of course, we already know that it didn't exactly release in a good state. An ungodly amount of bugs and exploits, terrible optimization and woeful FOV, with not really anything in terms of in-game settings to be able to change, like, anything. In fact, I remember the FOV being so bad that CCZ actually sent me a video on how to fix it by having to copy and paste a certain line of text into the literal game files. It was not good, and I remember being pretty disappointed at the time the game came out, because it was just a broken mess, and after I'd finished the game I just kind of forgot about it, to be honest. But here we are now, in 2023, and CCZ hits me up about a video he's planning on making on Security Breach, and whether I'd be interested in getting on it and having a segment in the video, to which I obviously replied, no, I'm all good thanks, and that's how it ended. So yeah. Wait, what? You'll give me a lifetime supply of tea bags? Oh crikey mate! Bloody hell! Oh, I think I'm seeing heaven. I'm sipping on lovely cuppa in my Brexit means Brexit t-shirt. 442, get stuck in lads. Tactical masterclass. I'll have to agree to such exquisite offerings, my fellow acquaintance. So I of course replied, yes, anytime. I would absolutely love to be a part of this video. And that's where we are now. So, naturally, I reinstalled the game and played through it in its entirety so that I could get an updated opinion on the game's state and whether or not it is a game that has been fixed or not. And I'm here to say that, unfortunately, I didn't have the best experience. To start off, the first time I had started a new game, I had this weird glitch where when you are supposed to enter Freddy's chest cavity after obtaining the first pass right at the beginning of the game, it just didn't let me. I mean, like, it had the whole sound effects and everything, but it literally didn't give me the option to press E to get into his chest cavity. So, I restarted the game, and it still didn't let me. So I had to start another new game. Great first impression, that was. But overall, the game was just okay. I mean, it only took me like 4 hours to beat, and that included the burn trap ending. Overall, I just found myself getting a bit bored and overall just unscared of this whole experience. When I had originally played Security Breach, the two parts I found terrifying were the daycare and endo segments. The feeling of being hunted down in the daycare is just something that I feel isn't replicated successfully anywhere else in the game. Just being surrounded by darkness as you hear Moondrop's footsteps get louder and louder, seeing his glowing red eyes in the darkness was nothing short of terrifying. And the endo section was also so good because the whole idea of the threat gaining on you whenever you aren't looking at them is never not scary to me. And I thought it was done so well in Security Breach with these tight corridors giving you no real escape from these weeping endos. However, this was the way I felt about these parts the first time I played. So, do they hold up to the same standards now? No, they really don't. The daycare section for me was super easy and still had a bit of a scare factor to it, but it was to a minuscule level compared to how I felt about it beforehand. The whole environment of this just didn't hit me like it did the first time, and just left for a pretty bland experience. And the same can be said about the weeping endos. I didn't die once in either of these segments, and just didn't have the terror I did the first time. So I was pretty disappointed. In fact, most of my time with this game was spent being more frustrated over scared. For example, the segment after Freddy has just broken down and you need to go backstage to get some pass was so annoying for me to complete. Those long hallways with so many search bots that will immediately teleport Roxy to your location if you are spotted. And guess what? If you die, you have to start right back where Freddy was. This was just terrible. Like, it was so frustrating dying at this segment constantly and having to do it again and again and again and again. One of the low points for me in terms of this game. Along with this, the Freddy repair segments are so boring and actually infuriating to complete because you have to be so precise with your mouse clicks because it seems that even clicking a pixel off the right button leads to death and means you have to start all over again. Also, the fact that you have to wait for the AI voice to tell you what to do and then see the highlighted area you need to click every single time is so boring and wastes so much time. Even if you know what you're doing and click in the right place whilst the AI is still talking, you'll just straight up be killed anyways, which is beyond stupid to me because it's such a waste of time for players who already know what to do. Finally, I would like to give my thoughts on the burn trap ending / boss fight, as I went out of my way to complete it, so I might as well. It's, well, okay. Doesn't really feel all too much like a boss fight, and instead pressing buttons to burn good old Springy Boy, and maybe close the door to stop one of the animatronics getting in. But at the end, oh by god, at the end it is woeful. It is actually such a pain and so annoying. So as the fight comes to a close, the area is covered by the blob's tentacles, and it makes it extremely difficult to move around, as even slightly touching one of the tentacles equals immediate death and being sent right back to the beginning of the fight. So here's the question, like, why? They obviously wanted a difficulty increase at the end, but this was just so unbelievably annoying that it made me not want to even finish the fight. But I did eventually, and I did it to be rewarded with a 10-second cutscene. So, literally, there is no point in doing this boss fight. Take advice from someone who has beat it, and understand that it literally is pointless. I don't think you even get an achievement for doing it, so there is zero incentive to do this. It will only cause you suffering. Trust me, just stay away from it. So, my closing thoughts on Security Breach in 2023 is that it was kinda boring and very frustrating at points, but it was okay, I guess. But definitely not worth the 30 quid it's being listed for on Steam. I want to thank CCZ for allowing me to be a part of this video, and I hope I was able to give some insight into my own opinions on Security Breach. I've been Donny Productions, and I'm going to hand it back over to my good friend CCZ.
Thank you Donny Productions for that lovely little part. I just knew for a fact that you couldn't resist that good old British tea. His channel will be linked down in the description, make sure you check him out. And now, oh boy, we get both into the ugly and the bad of Security Breach. First things first, that the game still runs terribly as it is still optimized terribly. And I'm not sure if this was just myself, but even nowadays I still have an abysmal amount of game crashes. I would like to think that I have a pretty good PC, but once I cranked everything up to medium, the game ran at like 40 frames. But to be honest with you, I shouldn't even be really complaining at 40 frames, as this is what I played the game on when I first played it. On my old graphics card, I had to have everything on low and I would still hit 40 frames if I'm very lucky. Don't get me wrong, the game's graphics do look pretty, however they should not be running this bad. They don't look that good that they should be running this bad. Take a game released just 1 or 2 years after Security Breach. Resident Evil 4 has much better graphics, however it runs much better. This is just an example of the great optimization done by the RE engine. Now the Unreal Engine does have good optimization as well, as proved by Rocket League and many other games. So why on earth does Security Breach, a 2021 game using the Unreal Engine, run this bad? There was also still surprisingly a handful amount of visual glitches that they still haven't fixed. One crucial part of Security Breach that I think has been improved since release but is still a big problem are the animatronics. For some reason, I'm guessing at a difficulty, Security Breach absolutely loves teleportation. If you get caught by any of these godforsaken security robots, then a character will teleport literally right behind you. I do understand that you need to get punished in some way if you get caught by one of these security robots. But after I get caught and literally see an animatronic spawn in front of me, all the immersion is completely broken. I understand that somehow the animatronic needs to get to you, but why on earth are they spawned in? Why can't they just know your whereabouts and quickly run into the direction where the security robot is making the noise? Another thing that I wish they changed was after you end up decommissioning each animatronic, they still chase you, which I do like. It is a nice touch and it makes the animatronics more creepy as they are nice and broken down. However, even after you manage to decommission these animatronics in the most brutal way possible, they still spring back to life and come and get you. I'm pretty sure with Monty, after you decommission him, he actually becomes stronger because he manages to leap at you from longer directions. And with the other two animatronics, Chica and Roxanne, they just don't get nerfed whatsoever after their decommission, which just simply doesn't make sense. I mean, at least nerf them a little bit. They literally just got crushed or something fell on top of them, or even in Roxy's case, they were in a brutal car crash. I could have been taking stupid pills for this or something, but I thought the whole point of getting rid of the animatronics was to get rid of the animatronics. But you know, it's whatever, I still have some other bad things to talk about. Starting off with Mesa size. Oh, how I absolutely despise this part of the game. Okay, just give me a second to break this down. So we are with Freddy at Parsons Service and we need Monty's claws. So we make our way to Monty Gator Golf where we get a Mesa size ticket. Then we go to Mesa size. Oh no, the key is missing. Then we go to Fazbear Theatre, the other side of the map, literally where the daycare is. We go back to Mesa size, we do the maze puzzle, whatever, I'll talk about that later. Then that takes us back into Monty Golf where we do the boss fight, get the claws, and then go back to Parsons Service. Where, by the way, don't think you got away just yet, you still have to attach the claws yourself. For me personally, this is just such a tedious and time wasting part of the game. If we are supposed to explore those locations, then at least do it another way and not make us go on a million fetch quests. And now let me get on to the infamous Mesa size puzzle. Oh man, I love this thing. If you are looking at solving this puzzle with no external help, I mean no tutorials whatsoever, then I truly wish you the best of luck because you are going to seriously need it. The developers have done their best to make this unironically the hardest part of the game pretty much impossible, at least to me. mean, so please do save yourself a headache and just watch a tutorial for God's sake. One thing that I really didn't like about the game, but I can totally understand, is that the game is very kid friendly. FNAF Security Breach is a really big project and obviously a lot of time and effort and money has gone into it. And because of this, obviously the publishers for the game are going to try and get into as many markets as they can. But seriously, apart from a few minute disturbing details, the game is completely kid friendly, and that really does reduce the whole horror and the lore aspect. I mean, you do have to keep in mind that none of the other FNAF games are this kid friendly at all. They're all very serious and gritty. And this also goes for the lore as well. I feel like this game just had such a light, relaxing lore compared to any other FNAF game. But then again, I do have to allow it, as the $40 price tag at which this game released with can't be sold easily as an 18+. It's just a shame that a large majority of the gritty and dark nature of FNAF kinda disappeared. FNAF at its core is not much of a camera game. Even if the first 3 included cameras, the majority does not. But even with this fact aside, the cameras in Security Breach are absolutely horrendous and you never actually have to use them. At the beginning of the game, the cameras were a nice touch, a little gimmick you can mess around with, but they became absolutely useless. You can summon as many Gigamonties as you want just by going back and forth in a place where the game loads. But then again, I did have quite a bit of fun doing this, so this is more of a positive. One of the whole point of FNAF games are the jump scares, and the jump scares in this game are just mid at best. When this game released, it kinda split a wall between FNAF fans, and some people really liked it and some people really disliked it. But one thing that we can all agree on is that when this game released, it was an absolute mess. So now the real question is, what is it like in 2023? In my humble conclusion, I do believe that Security Breach manages to create an effective atmosphere and present some unique concepts and ideas. However, it takes away many aspects that made the original FNAF game so good, and of course, technically speaking, it could have been made a lot better. Overall, I do love this game because FNAF means so much to me, but I also hate it. So there you have it guys, this is just some of my opinions and thoughts on the game, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Once again, I do want to thank Donny Productions for hopping on this video. Make sure you click the link in the description to check out his content. But I'm afraid that is all from me today, so make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in a later video. Goodbye.